Welcome to the Unafraid Show, college football week 0 wrap up and preview of week 1. So, of course, here on Unafraid Show, we are going to have way more lives and way more content pumping out all week long as we get ready for week 1. So, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about the Unafraid Show, and of course, come back here next week and for the rest of this week. All right, so Florida State lost to Georgia Tech. And if you were here on Unafraid Show, I told you that this plus 11 for Georgia Tech was probably the easiest money that was going to be out there because people did not account for Georgia Tech being absolutely one of the older teams in college football, returning quarterback, and they were a top 25 offense last year, and they had top 10 returning production this year. They did well in recruiting, did well in the transfer portal. This is a team, and Coach Key doing a great job. This is not your father's Georgia Tech team. This is not Calvin Johnson's Georgia Tech team. So I knew Florida State was going to have a problem. But let's get into Florida State first, and then we'll jump back to Georgia Tech. So Florida State breaking in a new quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. There was a startling stat that went out at halftime that people were just absolutely shocked at. I mean, they were concerned. And now a lot of people were laughing about it, but to me, this was not a laughing matter at all because this was a concerning matter because DJ Uiagalelei, who has been in college, this is his final year of eligibility, people would have thought that he would have been, ready to take the reins of this offense, but it seemed to be a much more conservative approach. And this was the stat before halftime: 12 of 14 and negative -0.1 air yards. So that means, for the people who don't understand, that means that the majority of his passes were caught behind the line of scrimmage. That these are just quick dump offs and everything else. So yes, the completion percentage is extremely high, 96 yards, hadn't turned the ball over, but it is a little bit concerning. So now the biggest question is, are we concerned about Florida State? Because remember, I have them in my college football playoff, top 12, and I have them winning the ACC. To put it politely, yes, I'm 100% concerned about them. But I did know that this Georgia Tech game was going to be increasingly difficult. But here is the biggest thing about this Florida State team is that there is a margin for error. And you have to remember this because these conferences don't have these divisions now. You are going to have, the top two teams, tiebreakers, and everything else. So Florida State at this point in time, they can still lose another game and still end up in the ACC championship game. And then that's the game that you have to win. So is this a bit of a concern? Absolutely. But you have to remember that a lot of these teams are not going to have big time tests in week 1. And this week 0 test for Florida State, other teams are going to get a chance to warm up and ease into their schedule. And then they're going to take losses throughout the year, whereas Florida State doesn't have that opportunity now. And this is the part that I want you guys to understand too, that this 2024 season is not going to be like seasons past, where you have 2, 3, 4 teams finish the season undefeated. You have the Big Ten, where Ohio State doesn't just have Michigan sitting at the end of that schedule. No. Now they got, Oregon in the middle of that schedule. And Oregon's got a tough road ahead in the Big 12. Texas has a tough road. Alabama, Georgia, these people in conference have a tougher road. Even though the SEC is only playing 8 conference games, but we won't even get into that. But it is a much tougher road now for teams to get to the college football playoff. Unscathed, that is. Now, so you're going to end up with teams having more losses. And that's actually the beauty of it. Because having 12 teams allows teams to have a trip up at some point in time and still be able to recover, whether they can still win their conference or just get in as an at-large bid. So that's actually one of the most exciting things about this college football season. But now back to Florida State, though. Yes, I'm concerned about Florida State. Yes, this loss is a problem. But here's the thing. We did see some good things from DJ Uiagalelei on fourth down. And we just need fourth down DJ to be first down DJ. So their offensive coordinator, Mike Norvell, everybody in between, they have to say, you know what, we are going to win and lose on DJ's back. We are not going with this conservative run and punt football. We are going to absolutely let things loose and let the ball fly. That's your only hope because Florida State's defense, oh, they absolutely got bully balled. They got taken behind the woodshed and an old school, um, Looney Tunes where the big hen is standing there and the dog, and he just whooping the dog's ass. That's what happened to Florida State. They got taken behind the woodshed. This was nasty time. But Georgia Tech's head coach told everybody before the game, this game would be won at the line of scrimmage. That's what he said. This game will be won at the line of scrimmage. And that's what happened. Florida State was unprepared. It's not that they don't have talent. They got a bunch of SEC transfers and everything else. So it's either the physicality in practice was not met where it needed to be. And this is a huge wake up call because teams have the biggest gains of the entire season between week 1 and week 2. That's where you gain the most. And then you continue to get better, but they're smaller gains. So this is one of them games where Florida State got kicked in the teeth. They got whooped, everything. And they better get back to work and get the physicality down on their defense. Because it wasn't like Georgia Tech could throw the ball all over the place on them. That wasn't it. It was when it came down to it, Florida State was like, Marshawn Lynch, we gonna run through a mofo's face over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they not gonna be able to take it. And that's exactly what happened. And then when it came down to it, Georgia Tech made a kick when it mattered the most. But let's go on to Georgia Tech. Because this is a team that is going to be a disruptor. And they showed you that last year when they beat Miami. Miami on paper, way more talented, bigger time recruits, everything in between. Florida State the same way. And Georgia Tech don't give a damn. They are going to drag you down in the mud and beat you if you do not jump on them. So Georgia Tech is a team, I do not believe that they're good enough to win the ACC, but they are good enough to make sure somebody else don't win the ACC. This looks like a team that finishes somewhere between third and fifth in the ACC. That's what it looks like. So Clemson, Miami, y'all better beware. If you, let me make sure of who they have on their schedule going forward. So Georgia Tech has Georgia State this weekend, which should be a win. Then they're at Syracuse, VMI, at Louisville, Duke, at North Carolina, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State, and Georgia. Now, do I think that they will beat Georgia? No, but they can make it ugly. They can make it like Auburn did Alabama last year, where they needed a Jalen Milroe miracle to get up out of there. That's the kind of nuisance that this Georgia Tech team is. And Florida State, it doesn't get easier next week because they got Boston College. They got Boston College next Monday. And Boston College has an actual Castellanos is a true dual threat quarterback. He threw for over 2,000 yards last year and rushed for over 1,000 yards. So Boston College is going to line up and run at you too. So if they don't get this fixed, that'll be a second loss, and that ain't going to work, buddy. A second loss is not going to work. So we'll see how that works for this team. But there was another game this weekend that I loved. The SMU Nevada game. And Nevada was there. Nevada was up, I think, 17-0 in the game. And then here came SMU. But SMU's biggest problem was figuring out their quarterback situation because they started Preston Stone. And he started out like 1 for 7. And then he got pulled for Kevin Jennings, who went 4 for 5 for 54 yards, but they weren't really getting anything going on the offense. And he's not necessarily the same type of passer that Preston Stone is. Preston, and then the game was out of hand. It looked like they were going to lose. And they were, what? They were huge favorites coming into this game. Huge favorites. Let me pull it up to make sure. They were 27-point favorites coming into this game. 27. And they won by 5. And that was at the end of the game. So, number one, SMU helped Nevada snap over the punter's head, not getting anything on offense. But here's what I do. SMU likes to go fast. They end up throwing for over 300 yards. But this offense right now does not look as high octane as you would have thought it would have looked. So in the ACC, I do not love this SMU team as much as I thought they would be better. Yes, they're going to beat Houston Christian this weekend, but with BYU, TCU, Florida State, Louisville, Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal, this feels like a 4-loss team to me. This feels like a 4-loss team with what I watched this weekend, even though I know we are not supposed to overreact to anything that goes on. And Nevada's offense is they can't run the football. Brendan Lewis was their best runner. And he had 18 carries for 77 yards, but they still only averaged 3.4 yards a carry. And SMU is not the biggest, baddest defense around. So this Nevada offense is still nowhere where it needs to be. And when you look at their schedule going forward, they got Minnesota coming up, San Jose State, Oregon State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Boise State, UNLV. This is a team that's not going to a bowl game, people. Not going to a bowl game. Hopefully for their young players, they get a chance to get some stuff going. But, yeah, this ain't it right here. But over the weekend, though, the college football games, and this is why I put it out on Unafraid Show, which was going to be the best game, not the biggest game, because the Georgia Tech Florida State game, excellent game to watch. So much fun to watch. The Montana-New Mexico game. Montana State was double-digit favorites. That's the first time that an FCS team was a double-digit favorite over an FBS team in over 10 years. Montana State found a way to snatch, well, they tried to find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But this Montana State team in the FCS, they are going to give people problems because they started out extremely slow, didn't have any continuity, but then their playmakers started making plays, and they ran the ball all over New Mexico. 47 for 362 and 3 touchdowns. That's 7.7 yards a carry. They just lined up and mauled them and then turned around and threw for 205 and 2 touchdowns. So that's damn near 600 yards of total offense that they racked up, and with the majority of it on the ground. So this Montana State team, watch out for them in the FCS. I will be watching because, my son's over at UC Davis. So I definitely, this was the game I had my eyeballs on, buddy. Had my eyeballs on. And this Montana State team, now they've been battle tested with an FBS team. You better keep your eye on them. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Didn't watch the Hawaii-Delaware State game. Hawaii was favored by 1 billion points and, literally 40 points and won by 21. Not really a lot to be gained from this game. We'll see what Hawaii is in coming weeks. But I want to go back to what we are supposed to be looking at and gaining from this week 0, and what we should be looking forward to and gaining from week 1. Because this is a do not overreact weekend. Do not overreact to week 1s. We have seen teams look dominant in week 1. Other teams look terrible. And remember, the biggest gains are from week 1 to week 2. And we're going to be covering this week here on Unafraid Show all the games that are coming up this weekend and teams that are going to have tests. So we got Clemson and Georgia, which is coming up this weekend, this Saturday. Excited about that. I don't know how great of a game that's going to be, but watch this next game, and we're going to talk about it further and make predictions throughout the week. The Penn State West Virginia game. You put that on your calendars, you circle it. That's the game, and it's at 9 a.m. on Fox. That's the game that you really want to be paying a ton of attention to. So make sure your dual block boxes are up between Clemson and Georgia, but that game could get out of hand and nasty quickly. Um, Colorado State, Texas. Texas should dominate that game. They're 32.5-point favorites, but Colorado State returns a lot of production. They return a lot of production, and that is one game that could get close, like the same way that we saw with that Georgia Tech game. Texas should win this game by the 32 points, but that's a game that could get nasty. At the 12:30 slot, Miami, Florida. Miami's favored by 2.5 points. This is one of them statement games. Everybody is predicting Florida. Their over under wins on the season's like 4.5, 5, depending on where you buy it at. And Miami, people like 10 wins or bust, maybe 11 wins with this soft schedule. Well, if Florida comes out and knocks the doors off of them, because this one is in the swamp, Miami is breaking in Cam Ward. He likes to run around a little bit, and if Florida's pass rush can get to him, Cam Ward is not going to be like that. And Mario Cristobal's teams historically play close games. They don't knock the doors off of people because of the way he likes to, the physicality that he likes to exude, but also the conservative nature that he puts on his offensive coordinators. So will he let that go, or will he continue to be who he's been, as long as we've seen him as a head coach? Ole Miss, Alabama, Oregon don't have tests. Those are layup games week 1. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Book it, watch it. I have Notre Dame playing in the college football in the national championship. I know a lot of people are freaked out by that, but here it is again. In case you missed it, I got them playing in the national championship. I got Texas, Notre Dame, Oregon, and Ohio State as my Final Four. That's what I got, and people are shocked. But I'm going to tell you, don't be shocked. Do not be shocked, because this Notre Dame team, they put together a top 7 offense and defense last year. And now they have improved quarterback play. And their head coach knows what he is doing, especially on the defensive end. Notre Dame, sneaky. And remember, they cannot finish any higher than 5th in the college football playoff because of the rules and everything else. All right, so we're there. Keep your eye on, though, Fresno State, Michigan. And then we get to Sunday, LSU, USC. We're going to find out what Lincoln Riley is talking about. And we're going to find out if LSU's defense is any better, if Brian Kelly has fixed the defensive issues, because last year they were a sieve. It was a freeway. So I'm excited about that. And then we got a chance on Monday to see Boston College and Florida State. But you guys, though, man, I'm so excited that you guys are joining me here on the Unafraid Show. We got lives coming damn near every day, college football content, some NFL content too. You guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about it, and we will keep bringing dope stuff, interviews coming, and everything else. Man, I cannot thank you guys enough. You guys have been a blessing to me, my fam, Ralph, everybody else. We are going to make this the absolute greatest place to consume your sports content, and especially your college football content. Peace out.